Season 5 for DMZ is right around the corner, and we've got no idea what we're going to be getting with it. It could be that we get some kind of new map, because we've had loads of maps for DMZ. It could be that we're getting new factions and new missions. But I thought now would be a really good time to just kind of take stock of where DMZ is at right now. What's the state of the game right now? What do I think of it? How much am I enjoying it? All of that good stuff. So hang around with me while I chat about this, and in the background we've got some footage of me and Flynn being incredibly greedy. We decided to go into Vondel on this mission and try to get 3 different missions done. One of them required us to kill a certain type of AI using a suppressed pistol and headshots, which is why we're using it, and it's kind of cool. It makes it look a little bit like we're playing GoldenEye or something. And then we also had to go to City Hall, Aquarium, and the cruise terminal and clear out all of the enemies in there. So that was another thing we had to do, and it was kind of annoying because there were players all around. And then we had to try and take out the bullfrog using grenade launchers. So that's why we're in there with grenade launchers and pistols as our weapons. It was a kind of crazy match. It was a lot of fun, so enjoy watching that while we chat. So, first of all, am I enjoying DMZ? Because a few weeks ago, I kind of took a break from DMZ. I stopped playing for a little while. I just wasn't really feeling it at the beginning of Season 4. I was a bit burnt out, maybe, because we'd completed every mission in the first sort of season or so of DMZ. And then they did that big reset, and we went back through. We did all up to Tier 5. We didn't complete every mission, but we at least did all of the Tier 5 story missions all over again. And then they reset it again. And now we're kind of just up to about the same point. I think we've got one more Tier 5 story mission left to do. We don't have much. We just have to wait for building 21 to open before we can finish it. But now we're back up there again. And it is the 3rd time that we've played through all of these missions. And I know every season they add a few missions and they change a few little bits, but it doesn't feel like they change that much. It definitely feels like a lot of these missions are just ones that we're doing over and over again. Like, you know, Caved In, where you have to go get the sensitive documents, take them to a bit under Satik Caves, park a boat under there, swap them out of something, then extract. I feel like I've done that so many times now. But something did kind of click a couple of weeks ago where I just started playing again. I thought I'd hop in one more time. I was actually playing solo, trying to get some lore done, trying to find some. And I think I just started taking DMZ a lot less seriously. Like before, I wanted to be as efficient as possible. I wanted to get all of the missions done, like burn through them as quickly as possible, because for the channel back then I was making DMZ guides. So I was like trying to get everything done, trying to be, you know, one of the first people to get everything completed. And that really kind of sucked the fun out of it. It meant that when something went wrong, when, you know, the game crashed or we got killed by people or something like that happened, it really got me down. It was really frustrating, and it made it so the game was less fun and more just kind of a chore to get through. Now, with this update, with the Season 4 Reloaded update, I've been taking it in a lot more sort of relaxed way. I've been going in trying to get some of the upgrades done. You know, we have to pick up loads of items, getting the lore done, doing the missions when Flynn's on. We've been going through and doing some of those, but not getting too stressed out if something goes wrong. Like, if it crashes, that's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. If we die, if we get killed by other players, again, kind of annoying, but not normally the end of the world. The way they've made it so much easier to do regains now. In some ways I don't like it because it takes away some of the tension. You know, getting a regain takes like 5 minutes now. You can just get back into the game and end up with a full large backpack, a free plate, self-revives, all of that stuff super fast. Your insured weapons, I can't remember the last time I was having to wait for timers for the insured weapons. You just seem to always have them. It's made it super easy. It's taken away some of that tension, but it has made it a lot more chill as well. It's made it a lot more relaxing. It's made it a lot easier to cope with when things go wrong. The other big thing that really annoyed me at the beginning of Season 4 was the 6-man squads. Like, Koshai Complex had opened, and we found that whenever we went into Koshai Complex, not every time, but the majority of the time, there would be a 6-man squad in there. And because there's so many kind of dead ends, there's so many places where you can just get stuck, if there's a 6-man squad and they know where you are, they're coming for you, there was very little you could do about it. And like a few people have said, it does feel awesome when you manage to take out a 6-man squad, especially, you know, there's normally just me and Flynn. So if there's just 2 of us, and we take out a 6-man, that feels absolutely awesome. But that's the minority of the time. You know, most of the time, you go through all that work, going through Al Mazrah, getting the stuff you need, go into Koshai Complex, start completing the stuff you need there, and then a 6-man squad rolls up and just absolutely annihilates you. And for me, my big problem with the 6-man squads was really that it was so easy for everyone to do it. And it was kind of the default. Like, you would go into a game, you would get into a fight with the first team you saw, and then whoever lost would just plea for help, and then you'd all get assimilated and you'd go on as a six-man. And it was just kind of, that's the way most people seem to interact. And you wouldn't need to talk to them or anything. You wouldn't need to like organize anything. It was just a matter of like, yep, you've got them up. Let's go kill other players because now there's 6 of us and no one can stand in our way. Then they made the big changes in Season 4 Reloaded where you couldn't accept the plea for help from someone that you'd killed, and that meant that you hardly ever saw 6-man squads. I know, again, lots of people in the comments have been saying things like, oh, I see them all the time, like there's all of these pre-made squads, there's all of these, you know, groups of 2 lots of free players that join up to do it. Personally, I didn't see that, and I don't think it's all that likely that it happens that much, just because, you know, I have lots and lots of people constantly complaining to me about my guides, saying, oh, if I say, oh, you need 2 people to do this, or you need 3 people to do this, they say, oh, but I'm doing this solo, I can't find people to play with, I can't find people to do the missions with. The number of people that can't find one other person to do a DMZ mission with makes me think it's unlikely that there's loads of people that are going into DMZ with groups of 6. And there's been a few missions this season where you are asked to solo infill. And there's a couple of times where me and Flynn have just cheesed them, where we've both, you know, solo infill but tried to get in the same game, so then we could assimilate back up to a group of 2 and do the missions. And it's a lot harder to get into the same game than it used to be. You know, I know the whole thing of, oh, you can look at the numbers in the bottom left, but there was quite a lot of times where we'd search and we wouldn't get those same numbers. So I'm not sure if they've changed something, or maybe there's just more people playing DMZ, so there's more games at the time we play. But it definitely feels like, I don't think there's that many 6-man pre-made squads in the game. Obviously, just over the last week, they did make the big change where now you can accept the pleas for help from people that you've killed, and so now it's starting to happen again that people are just getting into the first fight and then inviting the first team that they kill. That's happening a bit, but now there's at least a little bit of kind of choice where if you plead for help and someone gets you back up, you can just run away. You can just go away. You don't need to join them. I mean, I've done that a couple of times today where people managed to res me after they killed me. They'd taken the stuff from me that they wanted, you know, my self-revive or some money or one of my guns or something like that. But then rather than joining them, I just ran off back to my teammate. I just ran off back to Flynn and carried on. And, you know, I thought that works really well. The fact that that's a choice is absolutely awesome. That's really cool. I felt a bit bad for this guy that I just absolutely annihilated with a grenade launcher. Like, he didn't know I was there. He was facing away from me. I just blew him up. This was the last location we needed to kill all the guards in it. So I was a little bit like, I don't know, a little bit on edge because I was worried that there weren't going to be any more guards in here and we weren't going to be able to complete this mission. But oh well. So I kind of think that in terms of the assimilate and plea system, DMZ's in a pretty good place. Personally, I'd still like to see them get rid of 6-man teams. I'd still like it for them to maybe put a limit at 4, just so then, you know, solo players could get picked up and tag on to another team, but you wouldn't have these kind of 6-man death squads roaming around the map. I think that would be awesome. Or they could do something like, I know a lot of people have talked about maybe having some kind of drawbacks if you're in bigger teams, so doing things like messing up your mini-map, marking you on the map, making it so you can't do hunt squad contracts. There's loads of good ideas out there for just ways they could stop 6-man squads from completely ruining the game for other people. Because it still can happen, it still does happen, that occasionally you'll just have a 6-man squad roll up and there's not a lot you can do about it. One place where I'm a little bit less happy about the game, one thing that I still don't think they're getting right in DMZ, is the mission design. They keep on resetting the missions, they keep on getting rid of a bunch of missions, keeping some of the old ones, bringing some new ones in, but I think they keep making the same mistakes. Like, there's some of the upgrade things at the moment ask you to do things like find 35 cigar boxes, and that's an insanely rare item. It's really hard to find, you can only find it on a Sheikah, and you're not going to have loads of fun if you just spend all your time on a Sheikah looking for an incredibly rare item. It's super annoying that you have to do that, and it's something that they did with the first season, with the blowtorches. Lots of us remember trying to find a bunch of blowtorches. That was really irritating. They took that mission out, and then they just did the exact same thing with an upgrade path. I really don't like that kind of thing. There's quite a lot of missions in the game at the moment where it's just kind of, you have to do something that's a little bit annoying, and then they ask you to do it like 20 more times. I think I did one yesterday where it asked us to put 15 weapons or 25 weapons in a weapon drop, in, you know, one of those drop boxes. A dead drop, that's what they're called. And, like, why? Why did we need to do so many? I literally ended up spending 3 or 4 minutes of a game just picking up weapons off the ground that bots had dropped and then dropping them in a dead drop. I just felt like I was doing litter picking. It was super boring, not that interesting. Like, the missions that work really well, to me at least, are things where you just have to do one thing, but that thing you have to do is quite hard. And then if you manage to do it, you might be able to do it really quickly. You might be able to combine it with other missions, but it's quite a challenge. You have to come up with a plan of how you're going to tackle it, how you're going to get it done. And then once you get it done, it's finished. So things like having to kill the rhino with a pistol and the sniper with a sniper. I thought that was pretty good. That's a kind of cool thing. They could do things like, you know, trying to hit a really long headshot with a sniper rifle or something like that. That would be cool if maybe you only had to do it once. There's some way you have to do a bunch of different things, like the one where you have to pick up the GPS thing and then go to every location in Al Mazrah. I think that's fine, because that's still kind of one mission. That's one thing. You're not doing the same thing over and over again, but you've got to kind of plan. We did the one today where you had to complete 8 missions, 8 like unique missions in one go in Al Mazrah. And I thought that worked really well. Like, that was really interesting. You kind of have to come up with an idea of how you're going to move around the map, how you're going to get these missions done, how you're going to prioritize them. But most importantly, you can get them done in one game. I also like it when they modify the difficulty by stating whether you need to extract or not. You know, some of these missions, you have to go get something and then extract, and that obviously adds a lot of tension while you're trying to get out of the map alive. And then there's other missions where you have to do something really difficult, but then it doesn't matter if you extract or not. So you can kind of leave it till last minute. You don't really need to worry about exfil. I really like that. I think that's really solid. One type of mission I don't like at all is anything to do with enemy weapons. We did one today where you had to get 3 enemy weapons. You had to infill solo, grab 3 enemy weapons, and then exfil on the final exfil. And we did that 3 times because the first 2 times we did it, even though we had like 5 enemy weapons between us, for whatever reason, it didn't count. I think the first time we actually didn't realize we had to get the final exfil and we just got out on a random one. Then the second time we did it on the final exfil, but it just didn't count and we have no idea why. Then we did it a 3rd time and then it worked. And that meant every time we did final exfil, you know, that's like 25 minutes of just waiting around. That was really, really tedious. And they know the whole enemy weapon thing hasn't worked. Since the first season, there was a mission back then that asked you to do something with enemy weapons. I think you just had to extract with one. And it didn't work for ages. They still haven't fixed that problem, so I'm not sure why they keep putting it in the mission objectives. Speaking of bugs, it's still super annoying that there's so many bugs that have been there since Season 1 that still haven't been fixed. So, I play with an Xbox controller on PC. I don't know if this applies to PlayStation controllers. Let me know in the comments if it does. But I use a controller, and that means there's some interactions in the game that you can't do if you have your settings set to prioritize interact, which I do. So, you know, you reload and you loot using the same button, and it's just kind of, if you're looking at something, you'll loot. If you're not, you'll reload, because that works really well. But you can't do things like accepting someone's plea for help, because you have to hold the button, and for whatever reason that never works, so you have to change your settings. It also applies to like the raid. The raid doesn't let you apply, like, move one of the valves unless you've changed your settings, and it's super annoying to have to constantly go into the menu to change that around just because there's a bug that they haven't fixed for an insanely long time. And there's plenty of other examples of things like that. Like, they had something where if you use certain blueprints, certain attachments, when you load into DMZ, your gun will just be gone. It will just be disappeared. Sometimes your insured weapons will just turn into contraband for no reason at all. There's one at the moment where if you exfil on a helicopter and there's more than 3 people on that helicopter, only 3 of you will actually get to exfil with the gear that you had. So any loot that you got towards upgrades or anything like that. The other 3 will lose it all, which means any missions they had where it required them to extract something probably won't count. I think that's probably why our mission bugged out earlier today. It's super irritating to have stuff like that in the game for such a long time, especially when they keep on adding more missions, they keep on adding new things, but not fixing the things that really matter. The other thing that's been super contentious is the ability of the bots, the damage of the bots. You can see here us getting like shredded a little bit by a bunch of bots. Vondal's probably the worst for it, and I know lots of people complain just about how hardcore the bots can be. Sometimes you'll go in and the bots will be really easy and none of them will ever challenge you. You'll just find the tier 1 bots everywhere where you can just take them out with a single headshot. Super, super easy. Then other times you'll go in and you'll just have wave after wave of armored bots constantly attacking you, shredding through your armor, and you just like get pinned down in a building, you can't do anything. It's super frustrating. And I think it's all to do with the spawning of the bots, that when it's... Oh, we killed some people again with the grenade launcher here, and then these people were very angry that we killed them because they thought that we were just running around the map killing players. We weren't. We were trying to get a mission done, and they blew up the bullfrog that we were trying to get. But yeah, it's funny how effectively we dismantled this team, I think. But yeah, with the bots, the big problem is that all of the difficulty comes from how accurate they are from a long way away and how quickly they respawn, like how wave after wave of them hits against you. That's super frustrating. They don't seem smart. They don't do interesting things. Like, do you remember before Modern Warfare 2 came out, they released that video, the developers released a video showing how advanced the AI was and how the enemy would like go and search around for you. They wouldn't be able to find you straight away. None of that happens. Like, if you make any noise, if a bot sees you, if a bot shoots you at any point, all of the bots nearby will start attacking you. There'll be helicopter after helicopter of bots attacking you. Loads of them will be super armored, so some weapons that you can shoot them in the head and it won't do anything. It's really, really frustrating. There's another bug, the one where if you put a sentry gun down, it will carry on shooting a player who's dead. And if you're standing in the way of that sentry gun, it will shoot through you to get to the player that's already dead. That's super annoying. But yeah, with the bots, I would really like it if they did something just to kind of maybe make it so bots don't spawn quite as frequently, but make them a little bit smarter, make them work with each other, make them take cover. I'm sure that's much easier said than done. But they did talk about it before the game came out. They sort of advertised the game saying that, hey, the bots are going to be super smart. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see the bots more of an like engaging enemy rather than just an annoyance. But I'm saying all this, and it all sounds kind of negative. Here you can see me changing the settings so I can plead to accept this guy's plea to get him up. I'm sounding very negative, but the truth is I've been playing DMZ for hundreds of hours at this point. I've played a ton of it. Like I said, I've pretty much completed all of the missions 3 times by this point. So there's obviously something bringing me back. Like, I do really like the fact that it's a little bit more chilled than Warzone. You don't have like constant fights against other players. You've got like a lot of different objectives to do, lots of different things you can go in the game to do, and that's got much better lately. You know, you've got the missions, or you could go for the upgrades, just finding lots of items, or you can be trying to get all of the lore notes. Like, there's quite a few things to do. Hopefully they'll keep on expanding it that way, like making it broader rather than just a longer grind. I really like the idea that, you know, different people will be going into the map to try different things. I still wish that they'd make the forward operating base more interesting and not just a menu. You know, I'd love to have a base that you can walk around, maybe have like different things. So, you know, you get insured weapon cooldowns and stuff like that based on the amount of fuel you've got in your base. You have to keep on topping it up with fuel or something like that. Or maybe make it so you can go in with UAVs and stuff, you know, have a separate inventory for, you know, kill streaks and stuff that you've unlocked because you've completed some kind of challenge. I think that would be a lot of fun. You know, maybe you could invite other players to your base and then you could go and like decide where you're going to go and like what missions you're going to do, trade items, all of that stuff would be absolutely awesome. I know that's like a bit beyond the scope of the game, but that's what I'd like. I'd like them to just make the game a lot broader, give you a lot of different things to do. The final thing I wanted to touch on in this is just something that I personally don't care too much about, but I know I see lots of comments, and that's people saying how much PvP there is in this game. I know there's lots of people that would like the game to just be co-op. They'd like the game to just be something like Payday or something like, you know, most of The Division or Call of Duty Zombies, where you're just working with other players to get objectives done. And it's not that game. Like, this is not that, and I don't think it ever will be that. It is a PvPvE extraction shooter. PvP is a big part of it. There's loads of missions in the game that need you to go kill other players, and there's lots of incentives to kill other players. Like, if you die and lose everything, the quickest way to regain is just to kill a player who has everything and then take all their stuff. Like, that's just the way the game works. To me, it's just a part of the game. Like, some people will go in and all they want to do is go kill other players, and I kind of think that's fine. Like, I think that's okay, and sometimes some players will want to avoid everyone else and just try and get stuff done. And I'd like to see the developers do a little bit more to kind of encourage those separate playstyles, like have different ways that you can stay off the radar, ways that you can sneak around. You know, if maybe the bots were a little bit easier to stealth around because the AI was better, you'd be able to go in and be properly stealthy, you know, do it Splinter Cell style and get around the map without anyone knowing you're there. And if you want to go chase players, have bounties and things like that to make it so those people who are into PvP really get a lot of PvP. The bounty system still doesn't seem to be working for me. I still have never had a bounty in this game, even though we regularly kill 4 or 5 enemies. never seem to get a bounty, which is super strange. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about DMZ. Are you having a good time? Are there things you'd like them to change? Are there things you're hoping for from Season 5? I'm assuming we'll start getting some news about that over the next week. And of course, I'll be making videos right here. So make sure you subscribe, like this video, turn your notifications on, check out all my streams, all of that good stuff. And I'll see you for the next one. Goodbye.